DKDB Nashville.
Hello, friends. It's your buddy Lou Pickney with you here. The DKDB update, March 5th, 2026. I have my brand new 2026 NFL mock draft. Latest iteration is out. I'll be going through that here in just a moment. In addition, Brendan Donahue's first 2026 NFL mock draft is up. I have my reaction to that coming up here in the show. A lot of different mock drafts available in the DKDB. I put the best of the best in here. No AI, no committees, no tandem efforts. It's the best of the best. Real people, real humans who are really good at predicting the NFL draft. I'll go through my mock draft here, explain some of the choices and thoughts that I made. I had to adjust it midday after the trade between the Kansas City Chiefs and Los Angeles Rams was unveiled. Let's get to it. All right, so let's go through my latest 2026 NFL mock draft. Reflects deal made. Kansas City sending Trent McDuffie to the Rams. Also reflects a deal set up between Buffalo and Chicago. DJ Moore heading to Buffalo, with the Bills giving up a 2026 second-round pick as part of the compensation. So I had to get in there and adjust what I thought Buffalo was going to do. Things change quickly this time of year. Let's get through this 2026 NFL mock draft. I've got Fernando Mendoza, Indiana quarterback, at number 1 to the Raiders, like nearly everybody's going to at this point. It would be a massive shocker if Mendoza did not go at number 1 overall. At 2, New York Jets, Arvell Reese, linebacker, Ohio State, but really, they were billing him as an edge at the combine, so I'll probably start listing him with some sort of either LB/edge or just edge listing going forward, because it tends to be what I defer to in the NFL Combine happens with the position that they list for a player. But wherever you want to line him up, Arvell Reese, a dynamic, unique player. I'm going to the Jets at 2. At 3, Arizona Cardinals, Jeremiah Love. Had a tremendous showing at the NFL Combine. He would add a major spark to that Arizona Cardinals offense. You won't see many running backs going this high in the draft, but Love is a special talent. At 4, my hometown Tennessee Titans, Reuben Bain Jr. I think it's most likely either Bain or David Bailey, edge rusher from Texas Tech, one of those two to the Titans at 4. Said to be a major player trying to get Wendell Robinson, free agent receiver from the Giants. And so that would suggest they're probably not going to go receiver here at 4. Think about the edge talent on the board, the overall value that many teams see. Some of those top edge rushers and defensive standouts. Speaking of defensive standouts, at number 5, Caleb Downs, safety, Ohio State. If he goes in the top 5, he'd be the first safety to go top 5 in 16 years. Let's go back to 2010. Kansas City with Eric Berry from the University of Tennessee. But Downs is just absolutely remarkable at his capacity to read and react to a play. He's also a phenomenal athlete. At 6, Cleveland Browns, Francis Maui-Noah, offensive tackle, Miami. I think the Browns are going to go double offensive line with their 2 first-round picks. I'll show you who I have at their other pick. We'll get to it. At 7, Washington Commanders, David Bailey. Heard a lot of talk the Commanders are likely to look edge rusher here, particularly if Bailey, Arvell Reese, or Reuben Bain Jr. are still on the board. At number 8, New Orleans Saints, Jordan Tyson, wide receiver, Arizona State. Tyson is just a dynamic playmaker when he's healthy. If he could stay healthy, he could be a major boost for that Saints offense. Give Tyler Shuck a really talented target at receiver. At 9, Kansas City Chiefs, Kenyon Sadiq. I did it. I moved Sadiq up to number 9. He had an incredible showing at the Combine. Man weighs 241 pounds, and he ran a 4.39 40-yard dash. Good luck stopping him. And with Sadiq's a special talent. And I think it might be tough in some ways for Kansas City to pass up on an edge rusher here. They're going to have to make some tough moves coming up very soon with the salary cap and free agency. But if they don't go edge rusher, Sadiq could be a mighty nice fit for that Chiefs team. Now, the Chiefs also have needed corners. They could possibly go with one of the top corners here at 9. Although, if they want Sadiq, I don't think it's reasonable to think he's going to slide down to 29. Number 10, Cincinnati Bengals, Sonny Styles. Linebacker from Ohio State, also plays safety. That's how he started his career. One of several dynamic, unique, very talented players in that Ohio State defense, and here the Bengals get him at 10. Number 11, Mansour Delane, corner from LSU to the Dolphins. The Dolphins could look receiver here. They could go a lot of different ways. But they have a need at corner, a notable need. And Delane would fill that need quite nicely if he's on the board. At 12, Dallas Cowboys, Keldrick Falk, edge rusher from Auburn. Dallas also has a pick at number 20. I think they would take Sonny Styles if he were on the board here. But he's not. So they go with Keldrick Falk, fill an edge rusher need. At 13, Carnell Tate, Ohio State wide receiver to the Los Angeles Rams. So the Rams dealt the number 29 overall selection. Deal it happened on Wednesday. Chiefs sent two-time All-Pro corner Trent McDuffie to the LA Rams, exchanged for 4 picks in total, including the number 29. So LA, the Rams fill their need at corner, and here at 13, they fill a need at receiver with Carnell Tate from Ohio State. Another receiver at 14, Baltimore Ravens, Mekhi Lemon, wide receiver, USC. Had a great 2025 season with the Trojans. At 15, TJ Parker, edge rusher, Clemson, to the Bucks. Sonny Styles isn't there. I do think this is too high to take a more standard off-ball linebacker. But perhaps TJ Parker, edge rusher, Clemson, who performed very well down in Mobile at the Senior Bowl. Had some really good seasons in 2023 and 2024 for Clemson. Number 16, New York Jets, Colton Hood, corner from Tennessee. The Jets team did not have a single interception last season in 17 games, which seems hard to believe, but it really happened. So if you go with Reese at number 2, with Hood at number 16, and you had a couple of very nice blue chip talents to that Jets defense. At 17, Detroit Lions, Spencer Fano. Fano is interesting to me because there seem to be two lines of thought. There are some people that see Fano, even now, as a top 5 pick. There are others that say more mid-first, or a little lower maybe, for Fano. Anyway, he's still a first-round prospect on nearly everyone's board. And here the Lions get him at 17. At 18, Minnesota Vikings, Dylan Thieneman, safety, Oregon. Ran a 4.35 40-yard dash at the Combine. Just remarkably fast. Really good safety. He was really good at Purdue. Had a great season last year with Oregon. He'd be a good fit for a Minnesota Vikings team that's likely going to have to replace Harrison Smith at safety for this upcoming season. At 19, Carolina Panthers, Peter Woods, defensive tackle, Clemson. Exceptionally quick. Really good at pressuring the quarterback from an interior defensive line position. And that'd be helpful for the Panthers if they added Woods there at 19. At 20, the Dallas Cowboys. Remember at 12, with an edge rusher, come back at 20, fill a need at corner, Jermod McCoy. McCoy tore an ACL in one of his knees in January of last year. He's supposedly healthy, but he did not run at the NFL Combine. I got burned last year. A lot of people did, thinking that Michigan corner Will Johnson was going to be a first-round pick. He wasn't. He fell today, too. He was injured for a lot of that prior year. No, he had a great season in Arizona. He was a second-round pick. But he wasn't a first-rounder like everybody kept insisting that he was going to be. So I keep these sorts of things in mind. McCoy, if he goes and has a great pro day, great workout, okay, great. I nearly dropped him from my mock, though. I'm almost to the point of waiting to see, okay, prove it. But there are enough people that know things, okay, you got to keep him in there. All right, for now, McCoy, I'm putting you on notice. Better run a fast 40, pal. At 21, Pittsburgh Steelers, Denzel Boston. Big body receiver, 6'4". Be a good fit for that Steelers team. I'm not sure if the Steelers are going to get Aaron Rodgers for this upcoming season. He's been kind of vague about it. 22. LA Chargers, Benga Ioane, one of my favorite player-to-team matchups. Chargers have major need at interior offensive line, and Benga, one of the very best at the position. Had a great career at Penn State. At 23, Philadelphia Eagles, Caden Proctor, offensive tackle, Alabama. Proctor is 6'7". He weighed in north of 350 pounds at the combine. And he's so athletic, he could legitimately play guard if needed. So the Eagles, well, there's a few different options here. But here I'm going with Proctor at 23. At 24, Cleveland Browns, Monroe Freeling, offensive tackle / offensive lineman, Georgia. Some people have moved Freeling all the way up to Cleveland's first pickup at number 6. But remember, the Browns have major needs for their offensive line for this upcoming season, with free agency about to see some of their offensive linemen, several in fact, likely to leave town. Now, Freeling had a tremendous showing at the combine. Really impressed people. And a lot of people have gone ahead and skyrocketed him on up. And maybe they're right to do that. We'll see. But at this point, the indicators I look for are still saying, well, he had a great workout, but for now we're still going to say probably more this range. I still say Freeling. I mean, that's a great pickup for the Browns. You get Maui Noah at 6 and Freeling at 24. A big boost to that offensive line. Chicago Bears at 25. Cade McDonald, defensive tackle, Ohio State. Reported 8.5 tackles for loss last season despite playing an interior defensive line position. Not easy to do that. Underrated part of that very high profile, very talented Ohio State defense. At 26, Buffalo Bills, Derek Moore, edge from Michigan. Earlier today, I had Omar Cooper Jr. slotted in there, receiver out of Indiana, but plans change. Buffalo making a trade with Chicago to get wide receiver DJ Moore. The Buffalo gave up, as part of the deal, its second-round pick in this draft. But they're not likely to go receiver here at 26, and instead I've got going with an edge rusher, Michigan's Derek Moore, 26. At 27, San Francisco, Max Ihinaker, offensive tackle, Arizona State. Be an interesting fit with the 49ers. He's got the athleticism I've talked about. He didn't start playing the sport of American football until after the pandemic in 2021. But tremendous athleticism. He could be a good fit with that 49ers O-line. At 28, Houston Texans, Caleb Lomu, offensive lineman, tackle from Utah. Versatile player, young player, can play multiple positions potentially. Be a nice pickup for the Texans at 28. 29, Kansas City Chiefs. Well, make a trade, give up a top corner. You're going to have to fill that spot somehow. So Trent McDuffie was traded to the LA Rams, or will be whenever the new league year begins, whatever the technicalities are. It's a done deal, pal. So instead now Kansas City with a 29 pick. They go Sadiq up at number 9. Here at 29, they get Brandon Cisse, really talented corner from South Carolina. Got great speed, as you would imagine, but also his instincts are very strong. Number 30, C.J. Allen, linebacker, Georgia to the Broncos. As far as your traditional off-ball linebacker, Allen is one of the very best, if not the best, in this class. Then, of course, putting aside one-of-ones like Arvell Reese that can do a lot of different things. At 31, Akeem Mesidor, edge from Miami to the Patriots. Some of my indications are saying Mesidor would actually probably go higher. But I still think because he's going to turn 25 years old before the draft. Like about a month from now, he'll be 25, which is old for an NFL prospect, especially a lineman. And Mesidor had a great season for Miami. the Hurricanes opposite Ruben Bain Jr. last year. What a 1-2 combo they made coming off the edge. So here the Patriots get Mesidor at 31. Finally, 32, Seattle. Avion Terrell, corner from Clemson. Seattle is expected to lose multiple corners in free agency. So that's my latest 2026 NFL mock draft. So here in the DKDB, I encourage you, bookmark this page. Check it out on a regular basis. But the best of the best in the DKDB. There are only 2 people in the world that have a higher 5-year average in the Huddle Report scoring for mock drafters over the past 5 years. I'm tied for 3rd. The number 1, Jason Boris, his mock draft won't be out until the first day of the draft, at least if the last several years are any indication. The other is Brendan Donahue. He's got a brand new mock draft. He did a way too early one back in May of last year. But as far as a serious, reflective of reality mock draft, people have been waiting for this. It came out earlier today, this morning. And so let's go ahead and have my reaction to it here. Over on Sharp Football Analysis. He lists all the picks here. I'm going to go through it. Easier when there's a little bit of spacing, not just a list of names. I encourage you to go through and read this analysis. Brendan has some excellent work. Mendoza to the Raiders at 1, of course. Much like my way of thinking, Reese to the Jets at 2. Right here at this point is where our thoughts have kind of diverged considerably. The number 3, look at this, Francis Maui-Noah to the Cardinals. That matches what I've heard from a few sources, but including a very notable one, Charlie Campbell of Walter Football, saying he's heard Maui-Noah, the Cardinals like him. Interesting. It's a distinct possibility, but it's a matter of if the Cardinals value offensive tackle, particularly right offensive tackle, and Maui-Noah in particular, as far as best player available goes. How important is it versus Marvell Reese is there? Maybe it's a different move, but maybe not. At 4, Tennessee Titans, David Bailey, edge rusher, Texas Tech. Tremendous talent coming off the edge, really good pass rusher. So I think the Titans would go with either Bailey or Ruben Bain Jr. here as an edge rusher. It makes a lot of sense for many reasons. And again, I really like what Brendan has in here with all the details about who's making the decisions, the GMs, etc. Some really good info in here. It's just my reaction to it. I'll have the link to this, of course, in the description of the YouTube video. Definitely encourage you to go and read this information. Good stuff. So I talked about Spencer Fano, how there are varying opinions about Fano. Some say more mid, even mid-late first. But here, the other line of thinking, Fano going top 5, Giants. And I think it's a possibility the Giants could look offensive tackle here if they truly believe Fano is worthy of going with a top 5 pick for here. Number 6, Monroe Freeland. I had Freeland going to the Browns, but still being on the board at 24. I think there's been a lot of reaction to the very strong performance and overall impression that Freeland made at the Combine. And if certain other indicators move in that direction, I'll be glad to jump on the bandwagon. It says something that Brendan has all these offensive linemen going early. Because again, there's one line of thinking that a lot of these tackles will be in demand. Limited number of top-tier tackles, and so that might be the move. And here it's Freeland at 6 to the Browns. At 7, Sonny Styles, linebacker, Ohio State to the Washington Commanders. And that could happen. Seen some mocks that have Styles going to the Commanders at 7. He impressed people at the Combine. Carnell Tate to the Saints at number 8. I think it's a pretty decent chance the Saints would go with a receiver there, particularly if there's an edge rusher they like that's already gone. Maybe it's different if David Bailey's on the board, for example. But here, Carnell Tate, really reliable receiver, great hands. Now, I knew that Tate was not going to run some sort of blazing fast 40-yard dash to the combine. A lot of these pre-combine lists and mocks took this into consideration for people. And okay, we know what to expect or what it would indicate if they do well or don't do as well in some of the workouts. Anyway, but Tate's legit. Just look at his tape for Ohio State. He gets open and he's reliable and makes catches. Here he goes to the Saints at number 8. At 9, Jeremiah Love to the Kansas City Chiefs. I had that in my most recent mock before the new one today. I think if he's there, I think that's a very strong possibility. I'm just not sure if Love's going to make it all the way to 9. But if he's there, I think Brendan's on point. Jeremiah Love to the Chiefs. At 10, Caleb Downs. Safety from Ohio State to the Bengals. I've got Downs in my most recent mock going to the Giants at 5. But Downs, it's the relative value that NFL teams place on safety. But Downs is just so unique as a talent. And he had a lot of hype coming into this past season at Ohio State, and he lived up to expectations. Dude's legit. And here Cincinnati gets Downs at 10. My reaction to this mock draft from Brendan Donahue. Well, I got the new one from Brendan. I knew it'd be dropping about this time of year. It was a nice surprise this morning. Oh, got this from Brendan. Let's see what he has. Look at this at 11. Miami gets Reuben Bain Jr. So, I mean, people knew going into the combine that I've seen it called T-Rex as far as the shorter arms relative to what the norm is as far as what they want, like 31-inch arms or longer, just because the difficulty of getting separation from blockers, plus things like batting down passes and all. But Bain is an intense performer. He gives his full effort on every play. Be a nice pickup for Miami if he's there at 11. Number 12. Brendan has Mansour Delane to the Cowboys. I mean, Delane's a solid prospect. He seems to be the top corner on most boards at this point. I mean, some might like McCoy's potential, or I tell you, Delane, he had a great season at LSU despite LSU's struggles. And I think he'd be a nice addition to that Cowboys team at 12 if he's on the board. At 13, LA Rams, Kenyon Sadiq. So I think if Sadiq gets past Kansas City at 9, it could make sense. Rams don't have the receiver they want on the board. Receiver at a different spot, tight end. Kenyon Sadiq at that blistering fast 40-yard dash time at the combine goes to the Rams at 13. It's my reaction. This mock draft from Brendan Donahue of Sharp Football Analysis. At 14, Brendan has Keldrick Falk, edge rusher Auburn to Baltimore. If he's on the board, I like that for the Ravens. Really talented edge rusher, good size for the position. 15, Akeem Mesidor, edge for Miami. When I was going through and putting together my latest mock draft, I got to this point, and I had Mesidor's name. I was like, I don't think Mesidor's going to the Bucs. I don't think they're going to use the number 15 overall pick on a 25-year-old edge rusher. I just don't think the Bucs are the team to do that. I think some team will with the first, but just given the position they're in. And yet, if they like Mesidor enough, perhaps they'll go with him. He is one of the best edge rusher prospects in the draft. And so here, Brendan Donahue says Tampa Bay takes Akeem Mesidor. At 16, Mekhi Lemon. So Lemon's still on the board. That seems to be the kind of the way things are going with some of these projections, where you'll see it be either Carnell Tate or Jordan Tyson, and then maybe slightly lower, Mekhi Lemon. But there's a decent chance the Jets could get a shot at one of those three here at 16. In this case, Lemon's still on the board, and the Jets pick up Trojans wide receiver Mekhi Lemon. At 17, Detroit Lions, Caleb Banks, defensive tackle from Florida, a tremendous athlete. I knew he'd impress people down in Mobile. I figured he would if he was healthy, and he was. And he impressed people there. He's a gifted athlete for somebody with tremendous size. The only problem, of course, the injury concerns. He played 2 games total last year. You have to keep that in mind. But if he's healthy, he should be great in the NFL. At 18, Brendan and I thinking alike on this. Dylan Thieneman, safety from Oregon. I mean, they were talking about this possibly before the combine. And then Dillon went out there and just tore it up. Despite being in some groups with some super talented standouts of their own. It was easy to see why he has such great success on the field as a safety. His tremendous speed. Brendan says it likely cemented Dillon's spot in the top 20 of this draft. At 19, Peter Woods, defensive lineman, tackle, Clemson, Carolina. I can see this happening. I mean, the question with Woods is, are there concerns about him as a run stuffer enough to dissuade teams from going with him? But here's the thing. The NFL tilts more and more every year in favor of passing attacks and passing defenses. So Peter Woods weighed in at under 300 pounds. Still a large man, don't get me wrong, but some of these guys are rolling in there at 340, 330. It's different. But what makes Woods stand out in particular, which is exceptional quickness. Clemson tried to make him an edge rusher, and that didn't really work as well. But you can put him in a few different spots. But the big thing is that he can pressure the quarterback from an interior defensive line position. And that particular skill set is in tremendous demand in the modern NFL. So here, Woods to the Panthers at 19. I agree with Brendan's line of thinking on this. At 20, C.J. Allen, linebacker, Georgia. I see this as a possibility, especially if Dallas can get a corner at 12. And maybe you go edge rusher here at 20, but maybe you only do that if an edge rusher you really like's on the board. Maybe they're all gone by this point. I think Mesidor to the Cowboys could be a possibility. But in this case, he's not on the board. Tampa Bay already got him at 15. So instead, C.J. Allen, linebacker from Georgia, had a great career with the Bulldogs. One of the best off-ball linebacker prospects in the draft. At 21, Brendan Donahue has Jordan Tyson still on the board and going to Pittsburgh. And as noted, depending on who you think or you talk to, some say Tyson the best receiver in the draft. There's not a consensus on this. And the injury issues in history of Tyson, I think, are going to be... I didn't even see that was written right here. I looked down to see injury concerns. Again, Brendan's on point with this stuff. Anyway, so Tyson, the Steelers, if he's there, I think it's a great fit. It'd be a huge pop in Pittsburgh for the hometown fans if they got Tyson. 22, here we go. Vanga to the Chargers. I've been talking about this for a while now. And the problem is you can't get too attached because what the Chargers surprise people and make a couple of big signings of interior offensive linemen in free agency. Well, if that happens, plans can change. But here, Vanga's on the board. One of the best interior offensive line prospects in the draft. Great career at Penn State. And at least in theory, should be a great fit for the Los Angeles Chargers. 23. Philadelphia Eagles, Jermod McCoy. Quarter from Tennessee. See, I told you, some of these experts are starting to fade McCoy a bit. He didn't run at the combine. Much like run-stuffing defensive tackles, there's a time and place for injured corners, and that's day 2. But if McCoy is healthy, he's had more than a year to recover. Sports medicine has come a long way. Days of ACL tears sometimes used to end careers for people, and now it's something people can recover from and come back good as new. Anyway, so the point with McCoy, if he can run and prove that he's got the speed, you look at his 2024 tape, he performed exceptionally well for Tennessee. And the Eagles with a bunch of different options here go with McCoy at 23. 24, Cleveland Browns back on the board. Omar Cooper Jr., wide receiver, Indiana. I noted that my initial mock draft, it'll scroll on me there, pal. My initial mock draft for today had Cooper going to Buffalo at, was it 27? But then word came out that, oh yeah, you might want to change that, Lou. Oh, really? Why? Oh, well, that's because of DJ Moore. Former Carolina Panther and now former Chicago Bear getting traded. So Cooper, part of that great Indiana team that won the national championship, here going to Cleveland at 24. 25. Similar to what I thought, Brendan has Cade McDonald, defensive tackle, Ohio State, going to Chicago. It's 8.5 tackles for loss. Interior defensive line position. You'll notice that pressuring the quarterback and getting those tackles for loss, how that's the emphasis for these defensive tackles or first-round consideration. That tactic, that technique, certainly in high demand, and that's not going to change. It's not like they're going to stop tilting in favor of passing attacks. It's just the natural evolution of the game. A lot of the rule changes made, important rule changes made for safety reasons, and it has impacted the sport. Go back and watch a game from the 1980s. In some ways, it looks like a very different sport. 26. Okay, I was wrong on Buffalo. They're 26, not 27. But at 26, Denzel Boston. So I imagine that this was put together by Brendan before the news came out about DJ Moore. I guess it won't be technically completed until the new league year. But anyway, so he had Boston going to Buffalo at number 26, but that's unlikely to happen at this point given the trade that the Bills made to get DJ Moore. But point being, though, Boston's still on the board here at 26. Not everybody sold on him as like a top receiver prospect. Oh, he's got the size, though. And even those that aren't as high on him still say late first. Quite possible. At 27, Caden Proctor, offensive tackle / guard, Alabama. The 49ers, who could use an interior offensive lineman, or the flexibility to a guy like Proctor that could play tackle as well. But as Brendan notes, an immediate need at left guard for the 49ers. Guy that's 6 feet 7 inches tall and north of 350 pounds, playing guard, and yet Proctor, so athletic, he can pull it off. Make it really interesting to see. That's not usually a spot that people pay that much attention to, but Proctor playing guard in the NFL will be worth a look. At 28, Houston Texans, Blake Miller, offensive tackle, Clemson. A lot of talk of Miller as a late first consideration. Here the Texans fill an offensive line need with Miller at 28. 29, Avion Terrell, corner from Clemson to the Kansas City Chiefs. Looking at the Chiefs, working the trade with the LA Rams. And Trent McDuffie is an excellent corner, but Kansas City is in a spot with a salary cap where the better move is to trade, because trying to keep him was going to be like a long-term deal. That would have been difficult with a cap. So instead he goes to the LA Rams. The Chiefs get some picks, get some youth in there. Here they get Avion Terrell at 29. At 30, Emmanuel McNeil Warren, safety from Toledo to Denver at 30. Warren is a tall safety, dude, 6'3". It's a best player available projection here from Brendan Donahue as far as McNeil Warren to the Broncos at 30. At 31, Cassius Howell, edge rusher, Texas A&M to the Patriots. And again, I think it's silly for anybody that was adjusting after the combine with the arm measurements. We already knew this about Cassius Howell not having ideal arm length. We already knew that about Reuben Bain Jr. I guess it was just to what degree. But Howell, whatever you think about his arm length, he had 11.5 sacks last season against some top-notch competition. So the Patriots get him there at 31. At 32, Brandon Cisse, corner, South Carolina. I think that's a great pickup if he's on the board there. He'd fill a need for Seattle at 32. So that's my reaction to this new mock draft from Brendan Donahue. Be sure to bookmark the DKDB. Keep this thing updated on a regular basis. I imagine later this evening I'll have even more, if there is more to go in. This time of year, I'm not just daily, but multiple times a day. Look at all these just the past day or two, all these new mock drafts. This links right to them. Just click on the name. And I try to spotlight certain players and spots that I think are interesting. Like, okay, here's Freeling at 17, or here's a tight end people think that maybe won't go first round. That some say, well, maybe he will here. Eli Stowers. Your Mod McCoy 32C. I'm not the only one thinking that McCoy. Okay, you got to prove it. Got to prove it. As far as proving that he's back to full health and able to run. Because you don't want to get a quarter and he's not quite as fast as you hoped he was. You don't win many games in the NFL with slow corners. Not that McCoy is slow, but the guy had a torn ACL. You want to make sure he's healthy. Anyway, so there's a lot of opinions, not just a list of names. I put the best of the best in here. And look at all these just the past few days. Plenty to read. Even got the new one from Luke Easterling. He updated his today. I always enjoy reading Eddie Brown's work in the San Diego Union Tribune. This is not just thrown together. This is not just picking names out of a hat. I've been in this biz for 23 years. I've been watching a lot longer than that. But the DKDB is catching on. This rebrand has been tremendous. I mean, it's on DraftKing.com, and I've owned that domain going back to 2003. But the DKDB, I put the best of the best. It's a human-curated database. I put my name on it. I believe in it. I believe in the DKDB. So that's it for this DKDB update. I'm your host, Lou Pickney. Thanks for watching. Talk to you again soon. Bye for now.